Hi, Dr. Regan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
How do you drop topical when you don't even you're not even on the same page? And if the patient lets you, are they ever going to come back? Because they're just like, this guy wasn't even listening. And then do they question, did I even need the tooth removed? So you kind of have to, I hate to use this word because it sounds negative, but you'll get what I'm saying, audience, but you have to coddle the patient until they're willing to take the next step and then the next step.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take right into your own dental practice. If you're ready to elevate patient care and produce results that are anything but ordinary, buckle up and listen in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Everyday Practices. It's Chad Johnson, and we have an extra special guest. That is myself. And so we're just going to hop into where we started recording. Regan and I were talking about a special patient that I saw recently. So let's let Regan get us started off. You'll hear the podcast just get started. Here we go.
I adore Joanne to no end, and I love what she sees. She makes me stop and think at a deeper level. And and you and I are both go people that sometimes I forget to stop and get in relationship. And it's like the 101 that we always teach. And yet, why is that so difficult for me sometimes? And there's lots of reasons why. I mean, I'm on the go.
You got things to do.
Right. And we know what's going to solve the problem and move us along. But when we go back to basics and when we go back to remembering that being in relationship is the most important, productivity will increase. You will get more from that interaction and in the long term be more successful.
Yeah.
So Joanne shared with me a story when she was in office with you just a little bit ago about you going in and helping an implant patient.
Right.
And when we were in the Dominican Republic, you told me that you stopped counting how many implants you've done, or was it extractions after 10,000?
Yeah. Yeah. Extractions at 10,000. I mean, like at that point, I was just like, I don't care at this point,
Right. It doesn't matter. So an implant, and how many implants do you count your implants?
I haven't, but I'm not like a gajillion kind. Some people, whether they're telling the truth or not, I don't know. But like some people say that they've done 10,000 of those, and they might be telling the truth. Some of them, I would like to see their actual day sheets to see if that's the truth. Implants. Let's see. I've been doing it for 15 years, and the problem is that until I got my cone beam in 2014, so that's 7 years ago. At that point, I started doing, let's say, a couple hundred a year, so that would be 1,400. And then, but the first 10 years, it was probably like 10 implants a year. So let's just say that was 100. So I'm at like 1,500, something like that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but nothing. Nothing ridiculous.
No, but enough that you know what you're doing. You're very proficient in it, and it is not something that's going to present a lot of surprises. After 1,500, I would imagine you've seen a pretty good scope of what can happen during an implant, and so it's kind of like a bada bing, bada boom experience. That's okay. That's how I picture it.
Yeah, there comes a point, whether it's at 5 years out or 1 year out or 10 years out, there, like that instead of it being exciting and you're kind of nerve wracked, like, okay, how is this appointment going to go? You actually kind of just step into the appointment and you go, all right, so like what? We're placing implants. So cool. Like, let's take a look here. And, I actually talk out loud with implants. I know I do that with extractions too. I go, all right, so we're extracting 1, 16, 17, 32. Got it. And stuff like that. And I'm just kind of almost going through the checklist, the pilot checklist.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a real detailed pilot checklist, but for example, with the implants, I like using surgical guides, and so I'll look at the surgical guide. I print on it, whether I'm using the 16, 20, or 24 millimeter length implant or a drill. And am I going to use the 1 or the 3 millimeter stop? And so I'm just thinking, okay, the on Straumann key guides, it says, like whether it's 1 dot and 3 long. And so I actually say that out loud. Okay, number 4, 1 dot, 3 long. And then, and I'm just thinking that stuff out loud, but it is mindless, but I'm making sure that I don't get too mindless.
I love it when you talk dental.
Dental nerd stuff.
This is actually a perfect example because I didn't understand anything that you just said.
No,
because it's technical.
Will, maybe not. Yeah.
And if you have anxiety as a patient, it might as well be Greek to them. It makes no sense. It means something to you. It means you're doing your business, you're doing your job. I mean, I guess it's good.
Oh, and they're sedated,
so they don't even hear it anyway.
They don't care. Right.
So Joanne mentions to me, this patient, that when she was in office with you, you were about to go in and consult or hopefully do an implant that day with a female patient. Do you remember who she was referencing?
Oh yeah.
You do? Okay, wonderful.
Oh, I've had plenty of text follow-ups with her.
With the patient?
Yes.
So let me set the stage, and I would love for you to walk us through. I mean, not a super long podcast today, but I feel that this is an example of an everyday practice that any doctor can do and become more productive with a loyal patient.
Well, I'll set it up like this. Let's just, let's just call the patient Denise. It'll help because the name is somewhat, similar, but it's enough of a change that no one will know. But she drove an hour to get to our appointment. It might have been 50 minutes or so, but it was shy of an hour that she was driving. And in Iowa time, like that's a long distance to drive. I understand in LA, that might be 5 blocks down or something.
Yeah, I was going to say an hour really isn't that long, is it? Is it a long time in Iowa?
Well, I mean, like she was like, it's down the highway. I bet it was 50 miles. So, I mean, like to other people, 50 minutes might mean 15 miles and stuff like that. So I just want to put in context. In Polk County, Iowa, for example, you can get from one side of the county to the other, like one side of our biggest town in Iowa, Des Moines, with 500-ish thousand people, you can get from one side to the other in 25 minutes. So, I mean, so that when I think, man, that patient came a long ways, to me, a 50-mile drive
significant.
It's 50 miles. She passed plenty of dentists, let's just say, to get to me. And it happened that my coach, Joanne, was visiting the office. She's newer to coaching me, so she normally sees and knows me as Tornado. And I think...
Does she call you Tornado?
No, but I call myself that. I mean,
I'm going to call you Tornado from now on. Right. We need a nickname.
I don't know if it's almost self-aggrandizing, yes, I'm quite a tornado. I think of it as a good thing. I don't know.
I'm called confetti. So if you think about a tornado and confetti, that's a pretty good brand representation of us.
Yeah. It's like one of those party poppers.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, continue on.
I think she was shocked to see me get into a different role than what she's seen before. And that's why it was noteworthy for her to mention to you. And that's how it's ended up on this podcast is I tell you what, so I went into the appointment and I think she's thinking, okay, Chad's just going to be scatterbrained and stuff. And a lot of times I am, not as much in appointments as much as, in daily chit chat. So if you ever meet me at the PDA workshop or something like that, I'm animated and engaged with conversation and boisterous and fun and all those words like that. But with this patient, she needed for me to tone myself down. Interestingly, the night before when we had gone out to dinner, Joanne had mentioned, she's just like, what I'd really like for you to find out from the patient is what's most important to you. And I was like, you know what? I like that. So it happens that when this patient, Denise, came in and she was nervous as a wreck. I mean, she
had an hour to think about it driving to the practice.
Yes. If not a week before, thinking about like, I probably should call the dentist. She's just in that quintessential 99th percentile of nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for reasons to just jump out of the chair and just leave. That type. So I'm not talking about the top quarter or the top 10%. She's the top 1% of nervous Nellies. And so I went in and just toned my energy down, toned my volume down, brought in good eye contact, and made it a point. It was a different kind of Chad than a lot of patients are used to just on their recare exams, or that Joanne is used to seeing, that it's just like, hey, how you doing? And let me sit you back while I wash up my hands and let's take a look inside your mouth, just making sure that like the last 10 times you've been here, there's been nothing. So I'm imagining this 11th time is just going to be the same. And it just becomes, blah, 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 chit chat. That hers was knee to knee, eye contact, eyes the same level, and almost, quieting my energy soul down to her level to be like, so how can I help? And I think Joanne was impressed that then I brought into that conversation, hey, so, we know this tooth needs to be removed. What's most important to you? And just letting her talk. And there's part of me that knew, what's from an objective standpoint, what needed to get done. And procedurally, I would have been there a lot quicker than the patient. But the problem is if you drag someone, if you whip them too hard to where they should go, that you have then broken that contact. You've destroyed your case acceptance because you haven't built that relationship with the patient for them to trust for you to move on to the next step. How do you drop topical when you don't even have, you're not even on the same page? And if the patient lets you, are they ever going to come back? Because they're just like, this guy wasn't even listening. And then do they question, did I even need the tooth removed? So you kind of have to, I hate to use this word because it sounds negative, but you'll get what I'm saying, audience, but you have to coddle the patient until they're willing to take the next step and then the next step. So Regan, that's kind of the roundabout story. She came in with a really bad hurting tooth, number 19 for the, and we needed to remove it. And I wanted to place a same day implant. And we ended up doing all of that. In fact, she was just like, I'm so nervous about this. And I said, here's the deal. The pharmacy across the street at the grocery store will just have you get a sedation. So we'll go through a sedation screening and you go across the street, pick up your Halcyon medication, bring it back in, and we'll let that sit. Now, normally I'm done, by noon. She came in, let's say at 1 o'clock, or it might've even been 2 o'clock, something like that. And then we talk for a half an hour. Then she goes across the street and brings the sedation back, and we're waiting 40 minutes for that to work. This was a 6 o'clock kind of night when we got done.
Wow.
She didn't have a driver and that you would need for the medication. And I said, well, here's the deal. We'll just get you, up to a hotel nearby. And she said, actually, my vehicle has capacity. Like I have a small bed in the back, and because sometimes I travel and I just have that kind of the Subaru type,
Sure.
And so when we got done, she just hopped in her back seat and went to sleep in her car. And but I told her, I was just like, you have to have a driver to to get going and stuff like that. But at the same time, aside from hoping that I can trust you to just stay put while you're still feeling sedated and everything like that. This will save you another trip from having to come in. So, listening to the objections and then also being willing to kind of work with that. And that helped reduce her anxiety. I don't want to say it eliminated it.
Well, I was going to say, was this patient coming? So she drove the hour in. Was it already a foregone conclusion that she was going to take an implant? She drive there? Okay. So she could have gotten in the chair and then just said, I don't even want to do this anymore. So it wasn't a sold case.
No. So this was a limited exam with a periapical that we simply were looking at the tooth. And I just said, I hate to tell you this, but I think this tooth's a goner. Now, here's the thing. I'm at your service. So if you want to have this tooth removed today, I'm glad to do that. If you would like to think about it, there's no reason to make a hasty decision. You come back and we'll take care of it another day. That said, I do understand that this tooth is really bothering you. And I think that it's inevitable that you need it done. So the question then that you have to answer is this something that you want to address today? Because if so, I'm at your service. You're not here to serve me. I'm here to serve you. What do you want? And furthermore, like I said, with that question with Joanne's prompting the day before, and I really liked it. What's most important to you? And that really resonated well with her. Because listen, after 10,000 teeth, I know what you need to do. You know what's most important to you? Get out of pain, never see me again, and stuff like that. That's I could almost answer it. But if I went in there and just flippantly said, listen, I know what you need. And the fact is, I'm going to get you to do what I want you to do. Can you just open up real quick and let's just move on? That's not going to go over so hot. Some people it might, some people are ready. They're just like, let me just open up, rock and roll, man.
You have to build that trust because they've never been through it before. Some people
don't. Some people are like, I've looked at your Google reviews. Let's rock and roll. Get this tooth out.
So back it up, Chad. So that means that you establish trust through marketing, through your reviews.
Before we've even begun. Yes.
Right. So either way, you have to establish trust with the patient before they are willing to let you go and perform the service for them.
Fair enough.
You can cut this part out of the podcast if you want, but you just hit me with something that's really authentic to you when you said, I am in service to you.
I love saying that.
Well, but and you live that out. So you told me that when you married Sarah, that didn't you wash her feet?
Yeah.
And said that you were in service to her?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something from the biblical gospels where Jesus washes his disciples' feet and his disciples say, I don't want you to wash my feet. I should be washing your feet. And he says, if I don't wash your feet, you can't be my disciple. And so then I think it's Peter. He says, well, then wash my head too. Wash all of me. Like if that's what it has to be, then wash me. Wow. And so it basically was symbolism that actually, unbeknownst to me, meant a ton to Sarah, that she would have a guy that was willing to serve her. And so, oh boy, yeah, she was all crying and stuff. And little did I know that she was, even when, let's say that she was reading through those passages by herself, that she was just like, God, if I could just find a guy that could do that. And without any prompting of that I did that just symbolically to let her know. And, some church bodies, some groups actually regularly do that, is they wash each other's feet in a symbolic way to say, I'm willing to serve you as Christ served you and me and stuff like that. So yeah, that's something that I did. And it was the same mentality that, listen, I could let you wash my feet, but I'm here to help serve you.
Do you feel like you do that with every patient?
I actually use that. Not every patient, I wouldn't say, but the demeanor probably comes through. But whenever I present a treatment plan to someone, I make a point to say to a lot of them, especially if I read them right, that it's like, I don't know if they're quite, because if they're just like nodding their head and they're like, yeah, let's get started right away, then I'm probably less apt to say it. But if I feel any resistance, I'll say, here's the good news. You don't have to decide today. There's no pressure on your part to have to make this decision today as though it's a hasty decision. I want you to be confident that you've made the right decision. I'm giving you the details so that way you can make what's best for you as far as a decision. I'm just here to serve you. If that means that we take care of it today, then so be it. And I normally joke around at that point. I have to be here either way. So I'm glad, whether it's you or someone else, I'm glad to help you out. But if you were thinking, you know what, this afternoon I've got a meeting and there are circumstances that are playing through your mind that you need or want to hold up, then hold up. I mean, I don't mind. And normally that undersell is what gets people to go, no, I came this distance, and you know what? You're right. It would be smarter if I removed that tooth and did the implant today. I just wish that I had sedation for it. Well, then that's what we'll do. If that's your but, then let's work over that obstacle and get you sedation from the pharmacy right across the street. And I'll wait around and we'll wait for that sedation to take place, and we'll get you numb and comfy and, stuff like that. So
what was the result? How did the patient feel afterwards? You said you've been on text messages with her back and forth. Was she satisfied?
Yes. So we've got a good review from her. We didn't even actually ask for one, if I recall.
Nice.
Yeah. And we normally ask, but she's a work in progress so far. So we haven't quite, sealed that deal, but yeah. And then, she's written a lot of follow-up questions. I feel a piece of bone sticking out, or I'm concerned because, should the gums still be tender and stuff like that? Because just because I've pulled 10,000 teeth doesn't mean that I can do it painlessly, or that she's not going to experience any pain afterwards, guaranteed. That's crazy. Right. You might, and you might not, have that kind of outcome. I just can't promise that. So we've had a lot of follow-up. In fact, she'll send messages on Facebook to us, and I'll respond, and she'll say, is this a robot or whatever, because she's thinking it's AI bot. And I'm just like, no, it's Chad. And she's like, is it really? And I'm like, and she's like, then she'll say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bother you on the weekend about this. And I'm like, Denise, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. I'm glad that you're getting in touch with me, because I didn't want this, concerning you all weekend. She's a school bus driver, and she has time to take off, but she also, it's not like she's retired or in a position where she can just take off a ton of time to work. That's why I thought, this would be really awesome if we could pull this, graft it with PRP, put in the implant, all same day. Yeah. So
I forgot you did the PRP
for her. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. I got a lot from that. Great for dentists and team, obviously. As a business leader, though, I mean, to be able to slow down and mirror that person, get, like you said, eye to eye on their level, walk them through the educational components of it, and really listening. So it's interesting. You listen for words, but what I heard most from that is you actually listen for body tone and tempo with how she was speaking. So like you said, with some patients, they're just like, I'm ready to go, let's go. And you mirror that, and you're like, all right, let's go, let's do this. Like, I know that I'm an expert in my field.
Let me explain to you the 100 different materials and why you shouldn't choose the other ones and turn on that part of the brain. No, I mean, that's a Dr. Bruceism, but it makes total sense.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's a great piece of advice and a great reminder on how to work smarter, not harder. Takes a little bit of commitment to it, and you're going to have a loyal patient for life and a review to boot, and probably referrals.
Well, think about this in general terms too. By slowing down, even though it was beyond my typical hours, I was doing great patient care. And as you know, I mean, an extraction, an implant, bone grafting and all that stuff, that was thousands of dollars that we were able to receive by performing a great service for the patient. Same day sedation with extraction and same day implant. It's like, you're welcome. Yes, we got paid handsomely for that, but it wouldn't not have happened had I just said, hey, can I just sit you back and do what I know I need to do? Because you're wasting my time by talking too much. And you really need to like quit being so scared, like a little paper shaking in the wind. I mean, really, she was a wet puppy dog, kind of fearful.
Yeah.
So being able to slow down really did everyone a good service. It did our office good to be able to have that production. It did her good to be able to come in and have that all done at a comfort level that she was willing to, proceed at.
Congratulations.
Yay. Thanks, Joanne, for the idea. What's most important to you?
That's right. Well, thanks for the episode. It was great to have you on as just our personal guest, Chad. Excited to hear everybody's thoughts on this. Write us an email, chad@productivedentist.com or Regan, Regan @productivedentist.com. We are coming up on the end of our year and putting together our podcast episode ideas. What do you want us to cover?
Do you want to come on? Is there any dentist that listens to this that you?
Oh, you mean them?
You're like, I am on. Yes, to the audience. If you're a dentist that you would like to be on our episode,
yes.
Maybe, just maybe, we could get in touch with you. So chad@productivedentist.com, Regan@productivedentist.com. Get in touch with us.
We look forward to hearing from you. And if you have enjoyed, we wouldn't mind if you left us a review as well on iTunes, anywhere you can find Everyday Practices. We would appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Right.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices podcast. Chad and I are here every week thanks to our community of listeners just like you, and we'd love your help. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.